I'm Josh Liston from On the Bubble podcast, an oral history of television fandom, part of the Gunna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other awesome geeky shows at gunnageeknetwork.com.
You are listening to the Starling Tribune, a podcast dedicated to the Arrow TV show.
I am the Green Arrow.
This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, situations, and stories are the properties of Time Warner. I am the Oracle, and this is your Tribune.
Welcome back to Earth 2's favorite newspaper. We call it the Starling Tribune. I am the chief editor tonight. My name is SP, and your other award-winning reporters for this episode number 225 of the Starling Tribune are Chris.
It's not my first crime scene.
I'll bet you it isn't, Chris. I'll bet you it isn't. And Michelle.
Well, I guess stubbornness comes with the suit.
The suit looks remarkably like the other suit. We got to talk about that later. This podcast is recorded Thursday, January 24th, 2019, live on www.geeks.live.
That's right, and this evening we'll be discussing the most recent episode of Arrow, as well as news, interviews, articles, and announcements that have dropped in the past week that could and probably will impact future episodes of Arrow, as well as the greater universe. That includes The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and any other shows they come up with between now and then. They're always making more.
If you're new to the show, thank you for searching us out on the internet and joining us. After the show, you can check out our content at gunnageek.com, where you can also find other geeky videos, podcasts, and articles.
Thanks, guys. Michelle, let's get right into this episode of Arrow. So why don't you break it down for us?
Sure. This episode is called My Name is Emiko Queen. It's season 7, episode 10. It aired Monday, January 21st, 2019. It was directed by Andy Armagonian. Credits include 2 Arrow, 1 Blind Spot, 1 Flash, and 1 Supergirl. Written by Benjamin Rabb. Credits include 2 Arrow, 2 Flash, and 7 Warehouse 13. And Derek A. Hughes. Credits also include 2 Arrow, 2 Flash, and 7 Warehouse 13. They're a team, actually.
I am not surprised. You know, I was just going to comment that in general, Beth Schwartz has put together quite the production team for this season. Remember, she just took over as showrunner. She's a homegrown showrunner because she grew up within the Arrow production teams, and she is now bringing on some great talent. Keep your eyes on these names for the future, because coming out of season 7 of Arrow and whatever else that they get, if there's a season 8, season 9, whatever, I think these names are ones to watch out for in the future across all of your genre TV. So Andy, Benjamin, and Derek, I plan to see you either as a team or individually in the future in the TV that I like to watch. In the meantime, let's move on to the ratings for this week. And we go through all the CW shows that have aired on, for the DC comic book shows at least, on the CW. So this week started in January 20th. That is a Sunday. Supergirl aired the 10th episode of the 4th season, titled Suspicious Minds, to a live rating of 1.04, which is pretty respectable considering that was in the midst of the NFL Overtime Delights Conference Championships. And of course, everybody wanted Tom Brady to lose. And I'm not going to spoil whether he did or not in case you haven't seen the game. On Monday, Arrow aired the 10th episode of the 7th season. My Name is Emiko Queen. This very episode we're talking about, to a live rating of 1.22. Following that, Black Lightning aired The Book of Rebellion, Chapter 3, Angelitos Negros, which was the 10th episode of the 2nd season, to a live rating of 0.86. And winning the week on Tuesday was, of course, Flash on the 22nd of January, the 11th episode of the 5th season, Seeing Red, to a live rating of 1.88. These are kind of low live ratings, but, you know, I'll take it. It's January. People are in the midst of blizzards, snowstorms, and trying to get homework done. So I think they're okay. Chris, what do you think of the ratings?
I think they're solid. We can't complain. And like you said, going up against pretty solid NFL, yeah, Supergirl did all right.
So we're going to move on for the rest of the episode, and we start talking about the overall theme of the episode, and we like to equate the overall theme to the title of the episode. And I think they've done a great job of titling the episode so far this season with the main theme. Michelle, what do you got for us?
Well, it's called My Name is Emiko Queen, and we find out why she's putting on the suit. Renee finds out her first name, at least, and Oliver finds out her full name because Felicity got to do one of those, and you are the brother. Because everybody has a DNA machine thing on their desk
That can do DNA matches in 10 seconds. I'm sure the federal government would love to have that too.
I thought it was interesting that on Oliver's first day as a deputy, he convinces Dinah to completely break the chain of evidence. There, in case you're not aware, there's an actual way to collect evidence. First off, you're supposed to be CSI. You're supposed to wear like the head things and these suits and gloves, and then you put the evidence in. You take pictures and you put the evidence in, and then you write there's initials, and then you put it, and then everybody has to, like, who touches it has to sign and everything. And Dinah's like, oh my, this might take a week. And Oliver's like, oh, week? How? No way.
That is
We got to
BS.
get it now.
Yeah, it's Mondays in Star City, so we need to do things now so we can get the episode over with.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so they go ahead and give the sample to Felicity, who does some amazing DNA matching. And for those of you that know anything about forensics and DNA matching and anything like that, it does not take the couple of seconds that Felicity did. Of course, it's a TV trope. You should know this by now if you've been watching TV for a while. But that is the fallacy that TV has given us. So not only is she able to analyze it, but she's able to read the DNA analysis and then try to get Oliver to sit down to take the news, and he doesn't. Oliver doesn't listen to his wife. I mean, come on.
It's to be expected. He doesn't need to get news gently. He's gonna just take the news however he gets it. It's not like he's gonna faint.
So, Michelle, what kind of news does Felicity have?
That what gets me is that, first off, she admits, how sexist of us to assume that the new Green Arrow was a man. And then she was like, now, it isn't Thea. The markers are on your father's side. You've got yourself a sister. And he's like, whoa. But
The good response. I mean,
and Felicity was very supportive. She's like, okay, it's your father's side. Your father loved paper. So we're going to find out how he did this and where she might be and all this type of stuff. And of course, there's a warehouse. Of course, Felicity can find it in 3 seconds. Of course, she can get the materials there. And we find out that this is what gets me about Robert. Robert had Oliver right his wrongs when he was dying. And then we find out there was a letter that he wrote to Walter going, hey, I fell in love with this woman, got her pregnant, but was like, peace out, bye. Now, if you're reading this, I'm dead. So I need you to right this wrong for me that I abandoned these two people. But Walter never got the letter because our favorite mother, yes, the best mother in the world, Moira Queen, hid the information because that's her jam. Right, SP?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Oh, good old Moira. She's in it to win it, and she's in it to protect her immediate family. She didn't know what Moira or Emiko's mom was going to do. She was going to try to claim, part of the state or whatever. So I could see Moira's protective stance of her family. At the same time, Emiko is Mr. Queen's daughter. So you'd want to open it up a little bit. I'm not. So what got me in this episode isn't necessarily Moira, although let's talk about that. But what got me in this episode was Oliver spinning out of control about his father and his father doing bad things again. I mean, I thought we were so past this. Why did we have to go through that?
Because plot? No, I kind of agree with you. Oliver, at this point, you would imagine, is used to the fact that his mother and his father both lied in their best wishes to protect in some cases, or just because that was their nature.
I got it because this wasn't like some sort of corporate thing or a crime. These were two innocent people. And it's one of those things, it's like, I thought I had figured it out. I really didn't think he would have just abandoned these two people in the glades. We find out she was she was local. She grew up in the glades. Of course, I think he's going to take it bad. It's not just the fact that his father hid this, but he's like, I'm a brother again? What? And she's also the Green Arrow. And Felicity is like, yeah, that's a cry for help. So I think it's more than just, it's, oh, my dad did something bad. My dad did something bad. My mother hid it. I'm a brother. My half sister is going around in my old suit or something and all that type of stuff.
Is it one of Oliver's old suits? Because the suit looked really familiar to me. I mean, of course it wasn't the hoodie that he had on, but was it the same suit? Was it an older suit?
I think it was designed to look like his suit, but I do not believe it was one of his suits in story canon. In practical purposes, it very well could be a refurbished suit, just trimmed down and sized appropriately for the actor.
Yeah, but what gets me is that she is taking on that Green Arrow thing. That's what I mean by like the suit. But man, if she grew up, we find out she grew up in the glades. Her mother and her struggled. How in the heck did she get that suit?
Yeah, and the training and everything, I have no idea. I think we're going to have to go down that path to figure out how she got from where she was to where she is right now. And once again, it kind of brings up Talia, because we know Talia knew Robert, and I just don't know. And I think part of that is mystery that's going to unfold for us. A lot was explained to us in this episode, and I was thinking about that. What mysteries are left? And I think those are good mysteries that are left to explore, whether it's in the rest of this season or if we get another season to explore it, then if we still have Emiko around next season. But yeah, she is doing everything that Oliver did in season 1 once he got back to Starling City. So she is got the list. She's crossing it off. She's going after the wrongs in the city to try to make them right on her own, specifically trying to go after whoever killed her mother. And it is good to see that again, because it harkens back to season 1 and season 2 when this show was so great for us. So I applaud Beth Schwartz with that, but I'm glad it's not the singular focus of the show, because I think that would be a little bit too repetitive.
Chris, what did you think of Emiko's fighting style?
It's pretty brutal. It reminds me a lot of Oliver, but a bit more tumbling, it seemed like. But she's kicking ass pretty well.
Well, it reminded me of the little fighter that we've already seen in the future, right?
Black Star.
Yeah, Black Star. Yeah. So,
Nice pull.
but it's a little bit more brutal, and it's got some assassiness to it, where Black Star is more like cage fighting.
I loved her move when she bent backwards. She was on the ground and she bent backwards and she shot her arrow. I thought that was a cool move. I think I saw a flip kick.
I think so too, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, remember our flip kicks from season 1? Yeah. They're bringing all that stuff
I
back.
do like flip kicks. They were fun.
Well, Emiko actually gets shot in one of her, she's going to go copy the hard drive, because that's what we do now. We copy hard drives. And she ends up going to Renee for help. What did you think of their buddy team up, Chris?
It's an interesting start to things, and with the version of Renee we have now versus the version of Renee we had in the past, where he betrayed Oliver and all these things, he's likable again. So I enjoyed the interaction with them, and with Renee not being the straight man in this case, but more trying to crack the jokes, loosen the mood, and not having much success with it. So I think it's enjoyable, and I kind of like the fact that he got through to her and was like, hey, all my friends, they found a purpose after we stopped being vigilantes. I kind of want and I need to do this. And for her to eventually cave and be like, okay, you can be a part of this. I enjoyed it. And I hope they continue this partnership, for lack of a better term, going forward.
I think she went to Wild Dog for a couple of reasons. She went to Wild Dog probably, and I don't completely believe this, but he was the only one that she knew. But we know that she had to receive her training from somewhere. So I'm going to put that one aside. Maybe we'll get that story later. So we'll just assume that he was the only one that she knew that was halfway friendly. And she didn't want to go to the hospital, of course, because she didn't have a friendly doctor like Oliver did. And she didn't know if she was going to be ratted out or anything like that. So, okay, get that part. But the other reason that she went to Wild Dog is because she knew he was a former vigilante, probably wanted to be a vigilante. So he had some of those tendencies. So like-minded people try to get together and at least tolerate each other to the point where you would help somebody else out if they really, really needed it. And she really, really needed it. So I think that's where this all went. Of course, we're talking about TV medicine where you pull the bullet out and patch it up and then you're fine a couple of hours later. And okay. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. There was no herbs in this one.
But
There's
she
no...
did have a crate very similar to what Oliver had that she stored her book and other fighting materials in. So maybe that's just a queen genetic trait.
Was it a crate or was it like a chest, like a wooden chest?
Oh, yeah, I guess that's a better description. Wooden chest, similar to what Oliver had coming off the island.
Because hers had a curved top to it. I was looking for the differences between the two. So it wasn't like a shipping crate like Oliver had his stuff. It was a chest. But yes, very similar. It had me looking for the differences.
Now, keeping with the bagwig tradition that the show is known for, we have Renee, who is fighting for everybody in this time. But when we go to the future, we see Renee as mayor of the Glades with that hair. SP, I watched this episode twice. Did the hair get to you?
The hair got to me the first time I saw it. I mean, it was the only way that could really age him without aging him, because he does have to play the same character, however it is, 10 years prior, 15 years prior, I forget what the time jump is. So he's got to play both characters, and all of them do. And it was the only way that they could really age him going forward. So yeah, and still be a likable political figure that would look good on camera too. Don't forget, he's mayor, so he's got to go down that path as well. He does have some cred. He has worked in City Hall before, and he's created this utopia. But as we know, as humans, utopia cannot be created without destroying something else around it. And that's exactly what happened. Star City around the Glades has just crumbled, and we get the nefarious plot which is happening here. Of course, there's another nefarious plot, except for this time they're not trying to destroy the Glades. They're trying to destroy the rest of the city. I think we've come full circle here.
We have.
In season 1, it was let's destroy the Glades. Now it's let's destroy everything else.
Chris, were you surprised that Renee is in on it?
I I thought I would be, but then he started having the awkward conversation about trying to ensure that Zoe's not involved in things, and I was going, this smacks is more than just the concerned parent. And I said, well, I wonder if he's involved, and that's why he's trying to keep his daughter out. So it didn't surprise me a ton when we found out. The question is he playing those folks for some other gain? Is this a swerve to make us think Renee's gone bad, but for lack of a better term, he's undercover in deep cover or something?
I thought two things. First of all, I thought, boy, this smacks of season 1. If you're talking about the queens, both of them, both Moira and Robert, we still have to go back and talk about Moira and Malcolm, the whole group that was getting ready to destroy the Glades, remember? So it kind of stinks of that on one hand. And then I got to the end and I was like, you know what? He could be such the double agent in this. He could be Felicity's spy on the inside for all this, and Felicity might have been directing the whole thing. I still think she's alive. I mean, they insinuated that Felicity was pretty dead, but in any event, I think Renee very well could be playing both sides a little bit here.
I think so too.
I would hope so, because I really feel for Zoe. We see her in the present giving her blessing to her dad to go be Wild Dog again. And then in the future, she's his chief of staff, but she's part of the Canaries, being with Dinah and trying to actually do some good. She does say, where did it go? Where did it go wrong? Where did you change?
And I think
So perhaps your idea of him being some sort of double agent, maybe that.
Yeah, that could be. I think there's an inference that whatever happened that caused Star City to decline and the Glades to rise is about the same time he changed or began to change, was the implication that I got out of it. And then kind of culminating with him being the mayor, and instead of being Rene Ramirez, the boxing trainer and vigilante, he's mayor of the Glades and looker down upon Star City, for lack of a better term.
Looker down upon Star City. Okay.
Yeah,
well, we'll just go with that. We'll run.
I couldn't think of a better title or description. So while the grammar is probably not solid, I think the message is conveyed in a semi-decent manner. I'm an engineer. I don't have good English.
I wasn't going to try to throw stones. I was just trying to make sure that meant the intent of what I thought you were trying to say. And I think it did well. I think you would do well in the writer's room, in the Arrow writer's room. I think
Yes.
Arrow writers, Beth Schwartz, Chris is available to add to your dialogue enhancement for future episodes of Arrow.
Yes, so we can get the phrase "looker down upon" in the show.
So a blast from the past is bad wigs. Another one is the Ghost Initiative. We have Diggle questioning Diaz and then all of a sudden promising his freedom. And then outside in the hallway, he basically springs it on Lila. Now, SP, I know you have a significant other.
Yeah, she's not the director of Argus, but yeah, I have a significant other.
I don't think that was a very wise move on Diggle's part, not only just as a co-worker, but also as a husband.
Yeah, so they've been interrogating him at this point, at least 3. I'm trying to remember if there was a day that went by, so it could have been 4 days, but at least 3 days they've been interrogating him and trying to get information out of him. And I would think that in between interrogation sessions that you go and you game plan. I'm just spitballing here that's part of interrogation. Whether you're playing good cop, 2 bad cops, 2 good cops, I don't care. You're trying to game plan the whole thing. So I would think before you go in there and you start making deals that you would find out what the threshold for those deals are on the outside. So that part is a little unbelievable to me that Diggle did that. That said, Diggle did it. So we'll live in the world that it actually happened. Yeah, you don't do that. That's going to cause a further rift between the two, those two have to be working really closely together now because they know this grandiose conspiracy is going on around them. And you don't try, we've learned from previous bad seasons of Arrow that, with the team fracturing, that's just not good. So you need to kiss and make up before this becomes too much of a fracture. Diggle, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I just don't think Diggle's thinking rationally at this point in time. I think he's just trying to do whatever it takes to advance the mission, which, not the smartest move. Whenever Oliver Queen tended to get obsessive, Diggle called him out on it, so maybe he needs someone more so than Lila after the fact to call him out. I mean, he needs someone like he was for Oliver that would turn and look at him and be, what? And put him back in his place. So I don't know. Maybe this is a way they're eventually setting it up so that Diggle becomes more involved on the Oliver Queen side of the house because he screws the pooch, for lack of a better term, when it comes to this Argus op.
I like how being called Amanda Waller is an insult.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah. So a listener of the show has recently reached out to us, and he has started watching from the beginning, basically, and binging the show. And he's basically reminded us that Amanda Waller is not a good person whatsoever.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Mr. Joshua Liston, from On the Bubble podcast, by the way.
Yeah, because Lila's the one that ended the Ghost Initiative, and there's Diggle, like, let's start it. It'll help us find this Dante.
So what do you guys think of the dragon having a bomb in his neck and being part of this team? I actually think this is a useful move forward with his character, because at this point he's been really broken. His networks that he's built over the last 2 years have crumbled. They crumbled again this year. And I think we're at the point where you got to do something else with his character. So I think this is a smart move with the character. I think it's not done. He does want to kill everybody still. So, okay. But I think this is a way to get some use out of his character without him being in a cell the whole time.
But I'm not sure how long it's going to last. I get the feeling that Diggle's going to push the button on that bomb at some point in time.
We are at...
Or Diaz figures out how to get said bomb out of said head and go off the rails.
Perhaps.
I like how Diggle just called him Ricardo. I mean, that's what he called him the whole time. I like that. It was respectful and demeaning all at the same time.
So, SP, you wanted to talk about Moira?
Yeah, let's go back and talk about Moira, because she's the one who set this whole thing up anyway. We need to go back, because this is going to be an important part of Emiko and how Emiko is integrated into what's left of Team Arrow. And Moira, I think her motivations were squarely to protect her two kids, which one wasn't even a offspring of Robert Queen. Got to remember that, right? And the Queen Enterprises, which ultimately fell, but that was after she was gone. So she's trying to hold this all together, but she's doing it in true Moira fashion, and she's suppressing Emiko and her mom, which we found out who Emiko's mom was, by the way. It wasn't Talia or anybody that we knew. It was just a new character that was thrown in there. I think that's going to be in the back of Emiko's mind at some point, just like the fact that Robert betrayed them yet again came out to Oliver. I think that Emiko is going to harbor some bitterness, and it's good that Moira's not around, so she doesn't have that person to direct that to. So eventually she's just going to have to get over it. But I bet you we revisit that this season.
Well, for all she knows, Oliver knows about her and never reached out. I think that's something that's going to have to be clarified, because she could be living under the false assumption because of something Moira did that the rest of them wanted nothing to do with her. So I think we'll get some clarification on that. What I'm interested to find out is how old Emiko is compared to Oliver and to Thea. Is she the middle sibling for them? Is she the youngest? Because that could go into potentially why Moira took some of the options that she did. It could be before, if it's before Thea, it could be she was doing that to try and protect things, and who knows. But she certainly does have an MO of hiding children away, because she did it to Oliver too, with his son.
She did, and that's a good question. Let's just get this on the floor, because just looking at Emiko, looking at Oliver, I think Emiko is younger than Oliver, but what do you guys think?
Oh, I agree with that. It's the Thea question I'm not sure about.
Yeah, okay. That's fine.
That is a good point. Because didn't she... Oh my goodness, this is having to go back to seasons like 1 and 2. Didn't she have the affair with Malcolm as a retaliation for Robert having his flings? Didn't she say like she felt like abandoned?
Something to that effect. But Robert is notorious for his flings, so I don't think that helps us narrow down Emiko, but I think you're correct in your assumption on what happened between Malcolm and Moira. Had a brain fart, couldn't remember her name for a second.
I bet you they're close in age, though.
Yeah, I imagine so.
You think Emiko is closer in age to Oliver than Thea is?
No, I think she's close to age to Thea.
Okay. So about that same, okay. So tit for tat sort of retaliation with the affairs. Okay.
But it's going to be interesting when she finds out, or if Emiko ever finds out, that Thea is Oliver's half-sister also, and not Robert's, and Robert accepts her into the family, whereas Emiko is not accepted into the family. Boy, that's going to give someone a complex. The Queen family's screwed up, guys. They're really screwed up.
The only one left of the Queen family right now is Oliver, because Thea's out of the country, decidedly, and probably will never be back to the show.
Probably.
Maybe for a season finale, or a series finale or something like that, but definitely not in the meantime. So I think being accepted back into the Queen family would just be Oliver accepting her. And I don't think right now that she wants to be accepted, but I did love that last scene with them meeting at the gravesite. That was awesome. By the burnout mansion. I'm looking forward to that being the kickoff for the episode next week.
So the real question is, was Oliver waiting there, or had he put some kind of camera with a sensor there so he'd know when she was there to show up? I'm hoping it's a matter of he had a camera there and that's how he knew, versus let me just hang out at my father's grave in case she turns up.
Well, see, no, that's where you're wrong, Chris. He didn't place a camera there. The cameras have been there all along. They've still been working in the mansion this entire time. Those were fireproof cameras. So even though most of the mansion is burnt out, the Hulk is still there. So any cameras that were attached to the Hulk of the walls that are still there are looking at the gravesite. So they have an early warning sort of surveillance system that Felicity can tap into.
I figured they were just the cameras Slade put in you were talking about.
That is what I'm talking about.
Well, he buys high quality equipment because those things were tiny, like that big.
They were.
Batteries last forever.
Well, I mean, spy batteries, right?
That's like 6 years of battery.
Yeah.
I want some of those batteries.
I would like some of those batteries for potential Ring doorbells.
I want them for like my mouse and stuff too.
My mouse. As you're holding up your cell phone.
No. This is
your trackpad mouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, Chris, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
The DNA scanner at the front door of Oliver's apartment and Felicity's apartment. I kind of sat there and went, no. There's no way you can do a DNA test in 1 second to identify Oliver Queen and open a door. It sounds great on TV, but kids, no, that's not how it works. No.
I know sometimes TV just ruins DNA and it's used in our court system, and people are on juries and they're like, oh, I've watched CSI all the time, so I know how it works. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
No, and even The Flash got into it this week too, and I won't spoil it for anybody that hasn't watched it, but The Flash is dealing with DNA right now for a different reason, but it's dealing with it.
I want to mention that the sole Curtis, well, there's 2 Curtis scenes, but he was basically there to get all giddy when Emiko says suit up.
Yeah, I liked it.
Team Arrow doesn't exist anymore, and that's what Curtis wants. He wants Team Arrow.
It's Team SCPD now.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. I liked when Dinah went face-to-face with Renee, and basically, they had their little conversation, and she just wanted what she wanted, right? And the data basically. And at the end, he wasn't going to give it to her, but she said, "Look, we're not leaving until this is solved, and you know what happened the last time we fought." So basically, the last time Renee and Dinah fought, Dinah came away the clear victor.
Well,
I hope we get to see that fight.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. I hope we do.
She's a meta and lived on her own for years undercover, beating butts and taking names. Now, Renee was in the Navy, yes, and has been a rough and tumble street vigilante, but one could argue that Dinah's probably got a bit more training under her belt. Plus, meta. That probably comes into play, too. Maybe that's how her throat got slit.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, too. Maybe Renee did that. I mean, Dinah won, but Renee did the throat. Also, the last thing I want to talk about in this episode is Glenn Morgan. Do you guys think we're going to see Glenn Morgan in the future, or do you think he was just a plot point for this episode to say that he wasn't the one that killed Emiko's mom, and that we'll be seeing another villain as the season progresses here?
I think he's done. I don't think he's going to come into play after this.
Okay.
Well, I hope we learn more about what's going on, especially in that Flash future, because I really do want to see that Renee Dinah fight sometime.
Yes.
We're getting more clarification in the future. You're kind of getting the sense of what's going on. It's kind of an inside job. And we know at least who one of the main villains are. There might be more layers there, but I think a lot of the big mystery that we had from the first half of the season is gone. There's other mysteries that have popped up, but this is the way that the show ran in the first two seasons. So I'm glad to see it. I think Beth has done a great job. Beth Schwartz, the showrunner.
Next week's episode is Past Sins. It's season 7, episode 11. It will air Monday, January 28th. Excuse me. It will air Monday, January 28th, 2019. The past comes back to haunt both Oliver and Laurel. Curtis is upset when he discovers that Diggle and Lila have restarted the Ghost Initiative with Diaz, China White, Kane Wolfman, and Carrie Cutter. It was directed by the one and only David Ramsey. That's right, Diggle himself. Written by Ona Lee Hunter and Tanya Kong.
Live from the Starling Tribune main news desk on floor 52 of Starling Tribune Tower, it's the weekly news roundup with chief news anchor Michelle Ely. And now, Michelle Ely.
Thank you, SP. CBR did a lengthy interview with showrunner Beth Schwartz, and I pulled out a few of the key points. About the Flash Forward storyline, she said, well, we're still going to meet a character in the future. That's going to happen at the end of episode 12, which will be hopefully very exciting for a lot of people. And then we're going to have an all future episode 16, where we're going to answer a lot of the questions that we've posed in the first half of the season.
I'm looking forward to that episode 16. In true Arrow fashion, I think there'll still be some questions that will arise from that won't be a complete answer fest. But
exactly.
Guys, what do you think? Do you think that Beth her attitude towards the season is let's get everything wrapped up this season because we don't know if there's going to be a season 8? Or do you think that she's just continuing on with whatever storylines she has in her head?
I think she's continuing with what the storyline is. I think in order to re-engage the audience, they're doing some of these secrets and quicker reveals because they enjoy getting us all fired up guessing what it is and then not having to wait like 6-7 episodes to get the payoff and then be like, oh, as they tease another secret to us.
So will we see more solo stories about Felicity? She says, so now that he is out of prison, Oliver, Felicity is going to get back to what makes her a hero. So we'll definitely focus on that and also the origins of Smoke Tech, which is exciting, but she'll also be part of the team as well. She'll be both. She'll be doing both. And one of the things I did not bring up in our main discussion of the episode was that, boy, that crossover magically repaired their marriage.
Yeah, it sure did. That was a quick fix.
Yeah, and I'm glad they addressed it in the Arrow episode of the crossover, because once again, if you're watching this after the fact and you're binging it on Netflix or whatever, and you're just going down the Arrow episodes and you're not doing them in airing order across all the CW shows, you would have missed it if it was either in the Supergirl or the Flash episode. So I'm glad they took care of it in the Arrow episode. But yeah, I guess it did just magically change their relationship. So again, we've talked about this before. I had an issue with that really quick build up and that being a main issue during the crossover and it being taken care of in the crossover. I think it took away screen time that should have been other things in the crossover, but it was what it was.
It looks like we'll be getting smoke tech, which is something that's been teased.
Finally, I mean, I wonder if she's going to have to answer to that missing venture capitalist money from last year.
Yeah, that was used for bail money. Weird.
Yeah. Bye Helix Technologies or whatever they called it.
Yeah, it was Helix, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but it must not have been too important if if there's no mention of it now.
You change showrunners and stuff gets left on the cutting room floor, I guess.
Speaking of the crossover, how does Elseworlds impact the story moving forward? Beth answered, that will have more impact next season. So it's not really, she says, this season we're not going to see too much of that, of Oliver's decision with the monitor.
Makes sense. I don't know how you tie it into what they're doing now, so it sort of makes sense. There might be like some brief aside at some point just as a tease, like, hey, don't forget this for next year. But
for those that didn't happen to hear our Elseworlds discussion, we did go in at length about Oliver's agreement that he made with the Monitor and what he gave away during that agreement. And we all agreed that it appeared like he made a deal that gave up something from him in order to save other people, basically. And he was okay with that. He was at peace with that. And he at the end of the episode, he was fine with where things are. And it was very much like when he went to prison before. He made the decision without talking to anybody else. We know that they are doing a follow-on to the crossover this next year. We don't know if it's going to be at the beginning of the season or placed about the same time frame, the late November, early December time frame, or maybe in the latter half of the season. We don't know where it's going to happen, but they did say this fall, right? So it's sometime in this fall. So based on this statement from Beth and the fact that it's going to be in the fall, I think we're talking a November, December time frame for the next crossover. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you're right.
So we're going to see the first half of next season. And I guess this is a tip off that there is going to be a next season. So I'll accept that as headcanon right now. So season 8 is going to build up to the next crossover for Oliver.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay. She gave us a little tip and we'll just go with that.
Episode 150 is doing something we've never really seen in the Arrowverse before. What inspired you to take a documentary style approach to the episode, and how will that change the way we see Oliver and company? Beth said the writers came up with this idea for the documentary style after our 100th episode, which we got lucky in terms of we were able to tell that kind of nostalgic story with all of our past characters. We wanted to do something very similar in a more grounded way. And then another question was, tell me about how you got Kelsey Grammer involved. Well, because he narrates the documentary, and she said, well, he is the nicest man. I got to meet him yesterday, which was very exciting. Mark Guggenheim wrote him in the script from day one. Mark and Emilio Aldrich wrote this episode, 150. They have been here. I wanted the writers who have been here from the very beginning. Mark wrote Kelsey in the script from day one, and then he so graciously agreed to do the episode for us.
I'm excited for Kelsey Grammer. I think he has... I've always enjoyed things, but he has such a very distinctive voice, and it really is going to work for a documentary style feel.
And also, he can do the nice guy. He can do the evil guy. So, yeah, Kelsey Grammer is going to be great. The thing that I'm a little cautious about here is we're going back to people that previously were writing the show. And we saw how that didn't mesh up well in the crossover. And I'm kind of worried that we'll get some character regression during 150. Of course, it is 150 and it's probably going to have a lot of past stuff in it, but I just want to maintain the continuity of the current character, and I hope we get that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I just hope it's just a way to maybe just bring back some people, and we're like, oh, hey, look, that person, and it won't stall anyone's character growth.
As long as we get Nissa, I'm good.
I knew you were going to say that.
By the way, Katrina Law is in a new series now, so she's very happy doing that. So I doubt we'll see her much, if at all, in Arrow.
And she just had a baby as well.
Yeah, got married, had a baby in a new series. So congratulations, Katrina Law.
And finally, how would you describe the overall theme of the back half of season 7? It's the same theme of redemption, and this is kind of the answer in everyone's arc of their own redemption story. We'll get to see who is redeemable and who isn't by the end.
Who isn't redeemable? I wonder if that means death or imprisonment.
That's ominous. I like it.
Yeah. Good find, Michelle. Good find. I like Beth. Beth has been very open. I mean, she's been secretive when she needs to be, like in the first half of the season, but she's definitely a promoter. She gets out there and she talks to fans. She talks to reporters. She talked to us if, we put the feeler out. And, Beth would probably come on this show, but it's good to see that in a showrunner.
Okay, here's the big question. Black Siren, Laurel. Chris, I know you are a Laurel expert.
I love Laurel. Sorry.
Redeemable, not redeemable. Redeemable.
I still say not redeemable, but they're going to redeem her in most people's eyes when it's all said and done, I think.
We haven't seen her in a while, so...
She's off conniving somewhere.
I'm sure. She's probably learning how to do all that law stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Lawfordummies.com or something like that.
She's on YouTube. Or she's on Khan Academy. That's what I picture her in her downtime. Or like she has one of those Khan Academy things going on. Or like Harvard, old lectures for Harvard. There's like a whole bunch of lectures and stuff you can find on YouTube and other places on the internet. I think I just picture her, or like University of Phoenix sort of thing, just somehow figuring out how to be the DA in her off time.
Yeah, 2xing or 3xing the videos. Come on, I gotta get through these tonight. Yeah. Oh, wow. So is Laura? Yeah, I will say that the way they've written her so far, she is redeemable. However, if you go back to the introduction of Black Siren, I would say no. And so that's a testament to the writers and the storyline of bringing her to the spot she is now, where we're all like, well, no, but. So congratulations. You've got us at least wavering to the but side.
And that's all the news for this week.
We also got some feedback, and there was a Twitter poll that was put out, wasn't there, Michelle?
Yeah, there's a Archer system or program, which is like the big brother that helps Renee keep his utopia in line. And I just threw it out there. Who do we think built it? 26 votes, so this is very scientific.
Very.
62% say Felicity, 8% say Curtis, and 30% said someone else.
All right, so statistically relevance here. 62% Felicity. I would have to say Felicity too. Part of that smoke tech. Yeah, I'd have to do that. And also, I put a feeler out in Discord. By the way, we do have a Discord. If you want to join, go to www.gonnageek.com/Discord. You can join our Discord. We do have a channel in there specifically about this podcast. Ask a question about this episode for anybody that had seen it. What do you think about the episode? And our very own network owner, one Stephen Jondrew, he replied and he said, simply, I miss Team Arrow. So he didn't say anything about the episode, just I miss Team Arrow.
I do too.
There is no more Team Arrow. There is crime scenes that are contaminated, but there is no Team Arrow.
That's true.
Well, here's the thing, though. We've talked about evolving the show. Like, can the show exist without Stephen Amell? And, we've talked about someone else becoming the Arrow, whether it's Diggle, but now we have Emiko.
Yeah, it's certainly setting up so that if they kill off Oliver Queen in the crossover next year, there's a Green Arrow to continue the legacy.
I mean, she's got this board. She's got the book. She even said embracing the darkness for justice. I mean, it's Oliver 2.0.
She has to say you have failed the city at some point, though.
Maybe. Or she gets her own catchphrase. I mean, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but everybody else is saying it, so she's got to say it too. I mean, even the Flash said it when he was the Green Arrow.
That's true.
Damn it, Barry.
I don't think we'll have a good idea what happens to her and how she's involved in things until we see her potentially in the future. I don't know.
I would like to, if Stephen Amell does leave the show, I would like for her to be the lead role in the show. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be something.
Yeah.
So we are part of a larger podcasting network. We have over 20 shows. Chris, what is an example of one?
So like Michelle was saying, we've got over 20 shows in the network. There's a variety of topics they cover, be it tabletop gaming, video gaming, general geek culture, specific television programs. There's all sorts of stuff. And as much as I would love to tell you about every show on the network, you guys don't want to listen to me talk about all those shows for the 15, 20 minutes it would take. But what I can do is give you a taste of another show and say, hey, maybe you should go check this one out. And this week I'm talking to you guys about episode 344 of the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast, entitled I'm Doing 4. Despite the snow and ice, the crew is back with the latest geeky happenings. Willie has the details on who Netflix considers their biggest competitor. Note, it's not HBO. Chris has the details on comic book artist legend George Perez retiring, and Anthony geeks out over the new Mortal Kombat game review. On top of that, the boys find a few minutes to talk about the big movie trailers that dropped this last week. So if you like wacky weekend morning shows, I'm shamelessly self-promoting and saying, hey, go check out the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast, a part of the Gonna Geek Network, and you can find plenty of other shows there as well. Just head on over to gonnageek.com and click on the network button, and you'll find something you like. I guarantee it. If you don't, tweet at me, and I'll find you something you'll like.
I think this episode would be great for somebody to listen to because you're talking about the whole Netflix thing going on, which is bubbling up in conversation, but also George Perez. I can't understand. I'm a newbie to comics, and I've even enjoyed George Perez's his imagery that he's done in the comic books. So I have heard that he's going to be at C2E2 this year, which
Correct.
is in April or March. It's coming up really soon. So if you want to see George Perez, that would be one of the last places I think that you could go to see him. And he has done some phenomenal stuff that has enabled a lot of the great comic book bases and the comic books themselves in the last 10, 15 years. So
He has said he's booked for 2019 for shows. He's doing a bunch, and then he has one show in 2020, and that's it.
all right.
So that's your
his
chance to go
retirement.
see the legend himself, get him to sign some books because he's not doing commissions at the cons anymore either.
So I'd be interested to hear Anthony talk about him because Anthony is definitely attuned to the artistry in the comic books.
Very much so. All that being said, though, guys, it is time for us to start wrapping up this latest installment of the Starling Tribune. So a big thank you to everyone who did participate over on Geeks.live as we live streamed the video version of it and did participate in the chat room. But also a thank you to everyone who downloads the audio episode over at StarlingTribune.com or catches our video replays at YouTube.com/GonnaGeek.
If you happen to have an Amazon device, you can go ahead and enable our podcast as a skill. Just say the activation word and enable Starling Tribune. You will have full player control over our podcast, be able to skip back and forth between episodes, pause, restart right from where you left off. Also, as I noted, we do have a Discord server. Don't forget to check that out. And remember, you can always catch us live as we record at www.geeks.live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. on Pacific time. And it's all on Thursdays, and you can join our live chat that's embedded on the page.
We would love to hear from you. We're the Starling Tribune on Facebook and Instagram, at Starling Tribune on Twitter, and you can call us at 612-888-CAVE. That's 612-888-2283. Well, this brings us to the end of another great episode. Any last words before we sign off? At Stargate Pioneer.
Hashtag magical DNA scanner.
At the Chris Farrell.
Hashtag looker down upon.
And I am at Michelle Ely signing off with hashtag bad wig tradition. Oracle, I think we're done here.
This was the Starling Tribune. You can leave us feedback at gonnageek.com or check out our archive at starlingtribune.com. Visit gonnageek.com for more podcasts. Music by Kevin MacLeod can be found at incompetech.com. This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, stories, and situations are the property of Time Warner. No infringement is intended. We will see you for the next episode of CW's Arrow.